The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Your co-hosts, Melissa T, Bruce H, and the Monty'man.
Leaving the world of fantasy behind, coming back to reality. Welcome to the great reality here at Take12Radio.com on your internet dial. I am, of course, your host, the Monty'man, and Melissa T is here. Hey, Melissa.
Hi, good morning.
Bruce H is here.
Good morning.
And a very special guest and good friend, Marv R is here. Hey, Marv.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Marv is one of these guys who is a true wild westerneer. He is
westerneer.
He is a cowboy. He's not just a guy that wears a cowboy hat and has boots and drives a truck. He really does do that stuff. He does take care of livestock and pet his horse and but Marv is back with us. Marv has been on the show before. In fact, the last time he was on the show, the studio looked a lot different. And we didn't have the audio booth. It was kind of a mess. And
you had stalls then, didn't you?
We had stalls. Or stalls. And Marv brought his whole band in. And it was so fun because the neighbors at that time, not the same neighbors as before, the neighbors at that time were playing really inappropriate hip-hop music. I mean, with horrible language. And they would just blast us out. And so Marv and his whole band, we had guitarists and drummers, and we had the whole 9-yard percussion, everything. And so we opened our windows and our doors, and they were playing country / bluegrass / just good old, stuff. And they, you know what? We never heard from them again next door. We never did. It was great. I love you for that,
Battle of the Bands. Awesome.
So Marv R is here. Welcome, brother. How you been?
Not too bad, Monty.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see you, man. It's good to have you back. I made him put headphones on, so he doesn't have his cowboy hat on. But we have pictures up on our YouTube version. So if you see the guy with the cowboy hat, that's Marv.
Honor to be here, Monty. Thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you, brother, for coming in, and you're going to be sharing a little bit about some of your experiences with giving this thing away and the 12-step here.
Yes.
As we get into the show. The topic this week is personalizing the 12-step, as taken from the big book of the mothership, Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm going to be reading a little bit. I heard Melissa's going to start out reading for us here in just a few minutes. But this is one of those things that is vitally important because we're talking about being of service to God and our fellows, which is a big deal. And as a matter of fact, let me see if I can find it here. And then we're here from our sponsor. Okay, this is what it says in Working with Others. This is just one little piece. We're going to be touching on different pieces of this. But this is where it says what your job is now. It says it spells it out. Your job. Ta-da! What's your job? Here it is. Your job now. This is after having had a spiritual awakening as a result of steps you've worked. Your job now is to be at the place where you may be of maximum helpfulness to others. So never hesitate to go anywhere if you can be helpful. So your job is to be of maximum help to others. That's what it says. That's your job. Da-da-da. What's that mean? Well, we're going to be talking about that. that means a whole lot more than just reading steps to somebody. Right, Bruce?
No.
That's Bruce's word. That's Bruce's word for the day.
I was wondering when I was going to get that in.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's better than Percy Sledge or not. So anyway, step 12 reads, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. The original manuscript said, we tried to carry this message to others and alcoholics. Interesting. And to practice these principles in all our affairs. What principles? Well, we'll talk about that when we come back. So don't go away. More with the team, Melissa and Bruce, and our very special guest, Marv, when we return.
Free by the Sea is a drug and alcohol recovery center located in beautiful Ocean Park, Washington. This facility is amazingly gorgeous, but what's even more amazing is the integrity of the staff and the treatment provided for those wishing to recover from narcotic and alcohol addiction. The folks at Free by the Sea have a passion for presenting the solution to addiction for you or your loved one. To speak with an admission specialist, visit freebythesea.com or call toll-free 800-272-9199. This place is simply amazing.
That's right, everybody. It's back to life and back to the great reality. And it's time for Monty'man's Recovery News in Focus.
Yes, indeed. Recovery News in Focus brought to you by Therapia Addiction Healing Centers. Boom. All right. Are you a family member of someone who is struggling with addiction? Well, though it is not a pleasant truth to hear, you are suffering as well. Therapia Addiction Healing Centers offers a family program that is designed to help family members learn about the family disease of addiction and to begin their own path to emotional healing. Visit their website at therapia.net. You can also call toll-free at 855-652-4325 or follow the links right here at take12radio.com. All right, Recovery News in Focus this week. Yes, indeedy. Scott Stapp's wife claims his public meltdown was fueled by drugs. The lead singer of Creed. You guys familiar with Creed?
Yes.
Okay. Bruce is going, no.
No.
Marv is going, it's not country western music. I don't know. Well, the lead singer of Creed was worth $30 million after his band sold over 50 million albums in the late 90s and early 2000s, but declared in a rambling Facebook video last November that he was broke and homeless due to an IRS error. Okay. His wife, Jacqueline, declared that the once sober rocker was now abusing amphetamines, crystal meth, and steroids. His 16-year-old son, Jagger, also wrote on Twitter that my father once again chose drugs over his family.
What's with the steroids?
I don't know. What is that? There's no high from that, is there? Steroids? Can anybody email me and tell me? Somebody that has abused steroids. Let me. Is there a euphoric recall with steroids, or is it all about building fake muscles?
He might have been interested in building fake muscles.
Yeah, that could be. But how sad, right? Your own son saying, "Dad, once again, you've chosen drugs over your own family." Oh boy. He needs help, his son says, but he refuses to get it. He's been on a 9-week binge. Stapp insists that he is sober. Yeah, you know how we are, right? Are you sober? Oh, yeah, you bet. But has displayed disturbing behavior lately. He was placed on an involuntary psych hold in November, and audio was leaked earlier this month of a voicemail he left to the principal of his son's school declaring that the school would soon be a victim of an attack from ISIS. Stapp has also reportedly lost custody of his children and apparently lost his mind. Oh. Ouch. Well, Michael Douglas, you guys know Michael Douglas, right? The actor Michael Douglas. Well, his son, Cameron, was released from solitary confinement, but he's in prison still. The son of actor Michael Douglas was released after nearly 2 years. Cameron, in solitary. Can you imagine that? Solitary confinement, a little tiny room, 2 years. Man. Cameron was sentenced to 5 years behind bars after his girlfriend smuggled him heroin while on house arrest, but an additional 4.5 years was added to his sentence after he was caught smuggling drugs into prison on several occasions. And by the way, if you're not crediting yourself with clean and/or sober time just because you were in prison, give yourself a break, because you can get dope in prison. Mm-hmm. It is so blasted easy. It really is. So if you said no and you stayed sober, good for you. Anyway, Michael Douglas declared in his speech that if you happen to have a slip and you would get extra punishment, in my son's case, he has spent almost 2 years in solitary confinement. I'm not questioning the system, or I am questioning the system. But while Maryland's Cumberland Corrections Federal Institute didn't make it clear whether his parents would be allowed to see him, they did confirm he does now have visiting rights. So 2 years in solitary confinement because you smuggled drugs in? Think that's harsh? What do you guys think? Huh? Bruce?
Well, I'm telling you, you could have got a lot more.
Could have got a lot more. That's true.
Yeah, when I was doing time, that was serious business.
They want to set an example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think they give him a break.
What do you think, Marv?
I can't know.
You can't? No, I thought Bruce was just going to say no.
No, I do think that he got a break. They caught him smuggling in, and the people that bring it to him too. I know a woman and her daughter that got 5 years for that.
Egads. Solitary confinement. Wow. Okay, story number 3. Chris Brown. You guys all know Chris Brown? Bruce?
No.
Well,
yes, I do.
Okay. Chris Brown was kicked out of rehab again and sent to jail. After years of highly public and sometimes violent outbursts, Chris Brown ended up in jail last March after being kicked out of a court-ordered rehab. He was sent to rehab just weeks after being arrested in October for felony assault after getting into a fight outside of a hotel in Washington, D.C., which was a violation of his probation, you think, for assaulting then-girlfriend Rihanna in 2009. But after refusing a drug test and leaving the facility on unauthorized outing... Let's go on an outing. Among other infractions, he was booted from the rehab center. He later blamed his aggressive behavior on an addiction to a hood cocktail, otherwise known as a concoction of fusing codeine cough syrup with Xanax and soda. He says, and I quote, "I was falling asleep on video sets. I was cussing people out randomly. I was doing crazy stuff. I would wake up and be like, hey, man, what time we shooting this video?" And they would be like, "Dude, we shot it yesterday." And I'd be like, damn. Wow. Blackout. So there's Chris Brown's latest stuff. All right, AC/DC drummer. The AC/DC drummer. A band, by the way, and I'm just going to get some hate mail for this, I absolutely loathe. I'm not afraid to say that. The AC/DC drummer charged with drug possession and a murder plot. Phil Rudd was charged last November with possession of methamphetamine and cannabis, but his alleged drug use may have sparked the far more serious charge of orchestrating a murder plot. Rudd was arrested in New Zealand for allegedly plotting a murder last September and even hiring a hitman to kill 2 other men. A police raid of his own eventually led to finding the drugs in question. He faces up to 10 years in jail if convicted on the murder plot charge, but recently slammed the accusations against him as ludicrous and vowed, "I'm not going back to work for AC/DC, and I don't care who likes it and who doesn't." There you go. Oh, my goodness. All right.
All the famous people are going crazy.
Well, here we go. David Cassidy. Partridge Family, right? The former Partridge Family star was busted for DUI in January, his 3rd time since 2010. Cassidy blew nearly double the legal limit and failed roadside sobriety test after being pulled over by a highway patrol officer. His manager chalked up his latest DUI to pressure, stemming from legal issues. But the judge in his case was unimpressed. He ordered Cassidy to 90 days of rehab, 5 years of probation, and a 9-month alcohol education program. The actor apologized to the court for his conduct and said he has also planned to enlist the help of a sober coach. There you go. What do you think of that, huh? David Cassidy.
Did you guys have a sober coach?
Did I have a sober coach? He was a sponsor. That was my sober coach. We never when I was first in this thing, we never heard of that term, sober coach. Did you, Marv? Did you ever heard sober coach?
No, I haven't. Of course, I lead a sheltered life, so there's a lot of things I don't know about.
I know he just slopping the pigs and feeding the horses out on the range.
No pigs.
No pigs. No pigs. All right, so that does it for Recovery News and Focus this week. All right, you can email us here at take12radio@comcast.net. Recovery News and Focus, by the way, is provided by The Fix. You can visit The Fix at thefix.com. Okay, I think Cecil is ready with trivia.
And
country
now,
there.
for that wonderful part of the show that Bruce just absolutely adores, it's time for Take 12 Recovery Trivia.
That's right. Brought to you by Serenity Springs Recovery Center in beautiful Edgewater, Florida. Visit their website at serenityspringsrecovery.com. All right. Take 12 Trivia this week is in honor of our special guest, Marv R. And this is Wild Wild West Trivia according to BrownieLocks.com. Are you ready? Are you ready? And of course, Marv, you get first crack at this. We have 3 trivia questions and a bonus. And the prize is absolutely nothing worthwhile.
All right.
All right. Wild Wild West Trivia question number 1. To his close friends, Jesse James had this nickname. A, Deadeye. B, Dingus. C, J-Buck. Or D, Slick. Deadeye, Dingus, J-Buck, or Slick.
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, you go ahead. You can get first crack at it.
I was going to follow the cowboy, but I don't think so now.
This is crazy.
How about Dingus?
Dingus, you are absolutely correct. We're going to get that to you. Yeah, and this too. Yeah, all right.
What kind of friends did he have?
Well,
Dingus.
Dingus was. Did you know that, or was that a lucky guess?
That was a lucky guess.
Well, you got it right. All right, we'll get everybody a chance on these next ones. All right, number 2. Which of the following was called the gun that won the West? Here are your choices. And we'll give Bruce the first crack at this
Peacemaker.
Colt. Peacemaker. Colt 45, Winchester 73, Smith & Wesson number 3 revolver, or double-barrel shotgun coach gun. Colt 45, Winchester, Smith & Wesson, or double-barrel shotgun. What do you think, Bruce? The gun that won the West.
I don't know. Smith & Wesson.
Smith & Wesson. Melissa, what do you think?
Winchester.
What do you think there, Marv?
I go along with Melissa Winchester.
Well, Melissa and Marv, you are absolutely 100% correct.
Oh, my husband's going to be so proud of me. Somebody give me a high five.
All right.
I knew that. I did.
Yeah, after they said it, right?
No, I knew it that whole time. Yeah, I just faking it.
Yeah. Okay.
I had you, though, didn't I?
There's a step for that one. Okay. Okay. Question number 3. Wild Wild West Trivia. Which of the following groups is believed to be the real true tamers of the Wild Wild West? Which one of these was considered the real tamers of the Wild Wild West? Mail order brides, religious groups, lawmen, or the temperance movement? Mail order brides, religious groups, lawmen, or the temperance movement? Marv, what do you think? Who tamed the Wild Wild West?
I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't the temperance movement.
Temperance movement? What do you think, Melissa?
I said
Religious groups.
Religious groups? What do you say?
I said I'd follow the cowboy.
So you're going to say temperance movement? Well, you're all incorrect. It was mail order brides.
Really?
Yes, it was.
Get out
yeah.
of here.
No, it's what calmed the Wild Wild West.
Love conquers all.
I guess so. I guess so. Okay,
That's 2 for me.
get the horses back in the stable, would you, Marv? Okay. This is your bonus question. For 100 things that are worth nothing. Who captured Billy the Kid? Was it Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, Alan Pinkerton, or Pat Garrett?
Pinkerton.
Garrett.
You guys say Garrett?
Oh.
You want to change your answer, Melissa?
Nah.
You want to keep it?
Do you think I'll get 100 things worth nothing?
I don't know.
Because that's what I'm after.
Well, it was actually indeed Pat Garrett. The guys are correct. Isn't that fun? Take 12 trivia for this week. Wow, West. By the way, are you suffering from addiction? Anybody whatsoever? Well, Origins recovery programs, well, they understand, as men and women who have recovered from addictions themselves, they are familiar with the daily battles that you face. At Origins Recovery Centers, they have infused the latest medical research with wisdom from their own personal experiences to create a holistic approach to total recovery. But I can't afford it! Right? Isn't that like the big wall that keeps everybody in treatment? Well, here's the great news about that. They will work with you whether or not you have insurance. Nothing is more expensive than continuing to drink or use. Here's the number. 1-844-843-8935. 844-843-8935. Or visit their website at originsrecovery.com. All right, we'll be right back with the topic for this week, personalizing step 12. Don't go away. Hey there, this is the Monty'man from Take 12 Recovery Radio. You know, many of us have attended all sorts of addiction symposiums and treatment conventions, and so much of the time we walk away from these events feeling like we've been preaching to the choir just one more time. May I suggest a different kind of substance abuse and addiction treatment event? The Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference, February 5th through the 8th, 2015, at the Westin Los Angeles Airport Hotel and Convention Center. The current field of substance abuse and addiction treatment has been evolving for almost 8 decades now, and during this time we have seen many important developments as well as many failed experiments. It seems time to step back and conduct a professional inventory of where we have been, where we are now, and where we are heading. Well, this conference will provide a forum that encourages professional dialogues of controversial issues, showcases innovative and creative treatment approaches, and offers an overview of the field and its future. For more information, visit www.theevolutionofaddictiontreatment.com. Join me and many of my guests as we attend the Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference, February 5th through the 8th at the Westin Los Angeles Airport Hotel and Convention Center, 2015. Yeah, welcome back to still the world's oldest and only recovery talk and positive music station, broadcasting 24/7 via the internet and the Graceful Living Network. It's good to have you with us. Today we're talking about, we're closing this out, the personalizing the steps, with step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. What steps? All 12 steps. We try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. That's what the step states. And Melissa's going to read something here. But before I say that, may I remind you that you cannot have a spiritual awakening as a result of steps you have not worked. Doesn't happen. So if you haven't done these, I encourage you to go back and listen to Personalizing the Steps from step 1 all the way to step 12. I would even more highly suggest that you go to the workshops at take12radio.com and click on Walking Through the Big Book with Chris Schroeder. And even more highly suggests that if you haven't done this, that you get all of a sponsor, someone who has had a spiritual awakening, has developed a relationship with God as a result of these steps that can take you through this book. I highly recommend that. That would be your first choice. But we are at step 12 as far as the show goes. Melissa, you wanted to read.
I did. This is actually one of my favorite little excerpts from the big book, and I have the 3rd edition here.
Yay.
And it's chapter 7 entitled Working with Others, and it starts on page 89 in the 3rd edition, and it says, practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. That is an awesome sentence right there. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. And then this is it. This is my fave in the whole book. Life will take on new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives.
Wow, that is a loaded statement filled with promises, with 12-step promises.
I love it.
Life will take on new meaning. There's one. Watching people recover. There's another one. To see them helping others. There's another one. There's 3. To watch loneliness vanish. There's 4. To see a fellowship grow about you. There's 5. To have a host of friends. There's 6. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of your lives. You got a bright spot in your life now, and that's part of it. There's 7. I mean, just right there, we haven't even gotten to the end of this thing, and it's already talking about promises that are impacted here in this 12th step. That's great stuff. Thank you for reading that. No wonder that's your favorite part of that.
It's been my experience. That's probably why it's my favorite part.
So let me ask you guys. I got a question here. It says, practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. What other activities do you think it's referring to? Anybody want to give a shot at that?
Going to meetings.
Okay.
Alone.
Marv?
I'm thinking.
Okay, you keep thinking. Bruce, what are some of the other activities that might fail us where this might actually help?
I don't know. I think that it's a really important one. I think because it gets us out of ourself.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. But I still think that we don't want to become reliant upon that.
Even on carrying the message.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail here. I got an idea here. Marv, have you got any ideas what maybe the other activities that may have failed us?
Well, what I was thinking about was, it says in the book that some of us are sicker than others. So some of the activities like Bruce said, meetings or counselors maybe, thinking psychiatrists and all that stuff. So much of it has to do with each individual and where they're at personally, and motivation, perception. So it could be multitudes of striving and not really accomplishing anything.
I think you're right. I think it goes. Let me just say this: if your God is the 12 steps, at some point it's got to go deeper than that.
Yes.
But having said that, let me just say that we've been talking a lot through this whole process about being selfish, self-centered, self-seeking. I'm all I think about all day long, all that kind of stuff, and we have been cleaning away the wreckage of our past. We started out by admitting that we don't have the ability to do this thing without the power of God in our lives. We clean the wreckage of our past. We make amends. We do all this stuff, but then it doesn't stop there. It says in the preceding chapter there is action and more action. And talking about entering into the 12th step. And so part of the spiritual disciplines, if you will, is that we plug into other people's lives, that we just don't keep this thing to ourselves. And in this chapter 7, Working with Others, it describes just exactly how to do that. So people say, I don't know how to do it. Well, there's directions here on how to do that. And we'll be talking about that a little bit. And there is something very therapeutic about getting out of yourself and helping somebody else. Even something simple like, I'm feeling sorry for myself today. I just feel worthless, blah, 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 blah. So, somebody comes along and says, hey, come with me and help me mow the neighbor's yard. Something as simple as that. Actually, you get your mind off of it. It's a distraction. It helps you. It's therapeutic. Mm-hmm. But I think what Bruce is saying is true. I think if we become dependent on being altruistic on that alone, that at some point, that's going to fail us.
You've been all around it. It touched on a lot of things. And the thing I'd like to say about that is if we've actually worked these steps,
right,
and we've had this psychic change, this spiritual awakening, then we have something to pass along to people. And I think that one of the things that should be evident in us as we go to work with other people, we have to ask ourselves, are we willing to set our stuff aside for the betterment of another human being and be willing to listen and to approach like you were talking about, Marv? They're all different levels, to listen and see where this person's at and try to meet them right where they're at. And we've been given that gift because of our alcoholism, because of our addiction. We can hear other people when they're talking. So we can make an approach today that we wasn't able to do. And we could do that because we've had this psychic change, because we understand our selfishness and we want to do something about it with God's help. Mm-hmm. So we ask Him to give us the ability to put our stuff aside and listen and try to help a fellow human being.
Right.
Another thing too, Monty, not to interrupt
no, go right
you,
ahead. No.
is that can really be a simple action. And let me just explain what I'm trying to say. Bruce knows this because we're close friends, but I've been suffering with depression for the last couple of years.
Sure.
I'm starting to come out of it, but I remember distinctly sitting in my office at home and thinking, part of my problem is I'm very self-centered. I actually was thinking that. What can I do? What can I do to reach out and get out of myself? Well, it was as simple as calling people up and saying, hey, how you doing? Just checking in. Everything okay? And so it doesn't have to be a big, extravagant, thing at all. And it did help me to feel better. Because I was getting outside of myself.
You bet. You may not. A person may not be able to actually sponsor somebody because maybe they can't commit that time to them. And by the way, if you can't commit proper time to sponsoring somebody, you shouldn't cheat them and try to sponsor them, in my opinion, because it takes commitment, it takes work, and stuff like that. But so please don't misunderstand. If you're not able to sponsor somebody, doesn't mean you cannot practice this 12 step.
Right.
We can be of usefulness. And I'm not talking about just pouring coffee. That's great. But we can go a little deeper than that. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we do. And like you say, what about picking up the phone and just saying, I was thinking about you today. How you doing? How many times have you guys heard people say, I was thinking about calling you. Mm-hmm. And you're like, why didn't you call me? You were thinking about it. And so we can turn that around and maybe when we're thinking about it, actually do it. I can't tell you the times that I've been singing the blues and somebody would call me and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
How much that meant to me. So Marv, that's really vital.
Well, and it's simple.
It is simple. It is simple. There's something here that says, and this is interesting. It says, "Don't start out on an evangelistic, or as an evangelist or reformer." It's interesting. You know, we get excited about this stuff because if we've done the work, if we've had that spiritual awakening, if we've developed a relationship with our Creator, it's stuff we want to share. We want to give it away because we want to see people get well. We want to see people recover. And yet, we have to be careful that we don't become evangelists, you know, or knock people over with such enthusiasm that, you know, I think that will scare them away much faster than ever saying Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I struggle with that, something terrible,
Yeah.
because I want to.
Because you want them to be okay, right?
And I read the book where it says we're to freely share this spiritual experience. But see, I was evangelizing. You know, I wasn't just sharing about the spiritual experience and the method. You know, I was just excited, and I wanted everybody to know. If you could sit still and listen to me, I was there, and if you couldn't sit still and listen to me, I was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It moves on here on page 90, and now we really are talking. You know, some people say that the big book doesn't say anything about sponsorship. Okay, the word rapture isn't in the Bible either, you know, or the word Trinity. Okay, but come on. I mean, are we splitting hairs here? It does talk about, you want to call it sponsorship, you want to call it spiritual mentoring, you want to call it teaching, or whatever you want to call it. You want to call it accountability. It's in here. It's very clear. It says, when you discover a prospect for Alcoholics Anonymous, find out all you can about him or her. If he does not want to stop drinking, don't waste time trying to persuade him. So now we're talking about working with the person, maybe on a little closer level than picking up the phone or pouring coffee or giving a ride to a meeting. So now we are talking about that stuff. I want to camp out on this just for a second. That's kind of a strong statement. Don't waste, right, time trying to persuade him or her. Why is that important? That we don't spend our time spinning our wheels with somebody who's not interested?
Because we're so defiant and stubborn. It's just, yeah, but the heck with you. You know? And so we're just spinning our wheels. And if the person doesn't have a desire to want to stay sober, why would they?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, too, one of the questions we have to ask ourselves when we're working with another person is, are we meeting them where they're at? You know, there's that silver thread again about the evangelistic and trying to push our ideas. And it's been my experience that God opens the door.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm out there, trying to ride roughshod over people thinking I'm going to save them and all that, I'm really off base.
Right.
We have to meet people right where they're at.
I think if we go out trying to save the world, we're probably not listening to the voice of God directing us.
Right.
What do you think, Melissa?
Well, I think the answer is right there in the next sentence. It says you may spoil a later opportunity. Because when we don't know about this program, when we don't know there's a solution, and somebody comes at us as an evangelist or reformer, they're trying to push this on us in a way. We know it works, but they don't. And so they're like, what is he trying to get? What's the big deal? Why is he trying to push this on me?
Right.
So I think that they think that we have ulterior motives. They don't get it yet.
But if you leave the door open, and I was sharing with Bruce before the show today, I was saying there was a gentleman that came, and first thing I asked him, I said, what do you want to see happen? I mean, I don't know why you're here. What do you want to see happen? And he said, I want to get back on track. I have faith in God. I believe in God. I feel like I've gotten off track, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay. So we did an assessment to see if he was an alcoholic or if he was just a heavy drinker, because you need to determine how you're going to work with the person. And he definitely was an alcoholic. And then after chatting with him and asking the questions, are you willing to go to any length, blah, 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 and going through some basics, he agreed to all of that. And then it was just a week. And later he called and says, well, I'm never going to let myself get as bad as so-and-so, and I'm just going to do this on my own thing. And I was tempted to try to talk him into saving his own life. And I didn't do it, which is really growth for me. So what I said was, okay, you've been doing it your way for a long time, and maybe you need to do that a little longer. It may work out, but just want you to know that I'm available. I'm here. And I think in doing that, we will see people come back when they kind of wake up or whatever. But if we say, you know what, you're being ridiculous, you're a loser, you're probably never going to get it, good riddance. Talk to somebody else who cares. If you're not willing, they're not going to come back to us. They're not going to, they're not going to do that.
I think that Marv is probably the closest to it from my perspective is when we approach people to talk to them, we have to approach them where they're at. And to do that, we have to have heard something or get an idea,
of their background and stuff?
Where they're coming from.
Where they're coming from.
And then we can talk to them, say, hey, I'm just like that, or I was just like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we can have a little conversation with them, and we can start to gain their confidence. Because you know how we are. We're going to keep people at bay. But if we can win their confidence, then we can tell them about this wonderful method that we have that led us to recovery. You see? And so they might be open to hear that. But we're going to have to do what Marv said. We're going to have to meet them where they're at. Because if we go to them with our spirituality and, the way I was and want to beat people up with it and make them listen to it and pound God home to them, they don't want to hear that. So it all depends where they're at.
Yeah. So what I hear both you guys saying, and Melissa too, is that we need to be actively listening. And I've noticed with most
looking
looking
for those doors to open.
Yeah, and I think with most people, there are some that don't, but most people, when you give them the grace to speak first, they feel like it's okay to listen to you. Once they've kind of bled all over the table and stuff like that, because a lot of people they've been itching for years to be able to do that, and nobody wants to hear it. And if you're willing to be a listening ear, they're a lot more willing to hear what you have to say. But if you jump in there right away and do like I've got an actual form to do an alcohol assessment, and you go, well, yep, you're an alcoholic. Now this is what you need to do, without hearing anything about what they have to say, their hurts, hang-ups, or habits, you're probably not going to win them over.
Yeah, one of the things that Alcoholics Anonymous has done is try to allow us to bond, this common bond that holds us together. Well, it's actually a common solution that binds us together like we never were before. But we have to have that common bond, the alcoholism, the agreement that, oh, yeah, you know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's me, see? And that seems to give us the ability to talk with one another, for we can tell them about the solution. Mm-hmm. But if you don't do that, if you don't win their confidence, believe me, the defiant streak that's in us that runs through 99.9% of us comes right to the surface, and it's all about, yeah, but the heck with you.
There's a lot more direction in here, and I want to give the listeners an opportunity to, if you don't have the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, you can download the PDF file for free at aa.org, and you can read this. There's a lot of instruction in here. There's
a lot of practical advice in this chapter.
Yes, about approaching the family first, finding out all you can about the person, involving the family, leaving a copy of the book Actually, there's 2 times in there. There's the first time you do it and the second time you do it. There's all sorts of things in here and suggestions. And what my service sponsor, for lack of a better term, had me do was to go through Chapter 7 and number every time there was a directive. And I think I came up with like over 80 some odd. I got them all numbered, and the viewers can't see this, but you see they're circled and numbered?
Yeah.
Okay, those are things that are my part that I need to do. Engage here. Don't engage there. You know, this kind of stuff. So there is some just beautiful stuff here. But what I want to do, for sake of time, is I want to talk, and because Marv's our guest this week, what has been some of your experience with this step? And share with us, if you don't mind, something that you kind of got thinking about doing this cowboy thing, right?
Right.
Yeah, share with us what that's about.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about while you were talking is the idea of new people going out, and I was one of these people who would go out and try to quote unquote save, the other person. And what hit me was how much clamor was involved when I was fairly new in this, that I created trying to do that. So it's not that I'm trying to say, well, don't do that. What I'm trying to say is it's a process that goes on as long as we're moving forward. And boy, I made a lot of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I really did. And some of them had to do with being judgmental, and some of them had to do with just thinking, boy, I'm really something, here I am out here doing this. And
right.
And it was all malarkey, So what I started doing was realizing that Christ, as I understand him, is the one who's going to make things happen. He's going to open the doors, and he's going to close the doors. Jesus never enabled anybody in his ministry. And that's one of the things I had to start taking a look at. And I've tried, not always successfully, to just wait and be available when I'm supposed to be, without all the clamor and without thinking, boy, I'm really something. Jesus is something, not me. And
so you want it, whatever you do in word or deed, your heart is that it points to him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've been just really tickled to death in my horse business. I train horses, and people show up from all walks of life. I've really had some neat opportunities to have one-on-one with them and be able to share in a quiet manner. And one guy in particular I'm thinking of, I got to know him about 4 years ago. He wanted to be a horse trainer, and he was drinking heavy and running around and stuff. And the only thing I ever told him in the beginning was, I can't go have a beer. I'm an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And
because that's common in those circles, is it not? In some
yes.
of the rodeo thing. And people haven't gone out for drinks.
So 4 years later, one day I'm out working on my car, and he shows up in my driveway. He said, Marv, I need to talk to you. And that was a door opening right there. And today he's in AA. He's staying sober. And so one person, that's, one guy I can think of, but it's so important.
Yeah.
What I've been thinking about recently is, you mentioned something earlier in the show about a band and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, I write music, And a lot of it, most of it, has to do with the Western way of life. It's not country and Western. It's really more of cowboy music with a spiritual background. And
what's the difference between country and Western music, in your perception, and cowboy music with a spiritual background?
well, country and Western is kind of like Bubba shot the jukebox last night type deal. And cowboy,
yes, he did.
cowboy music is about the life. It's about the wrecks, the loneliness, and so what I try to do is try to add in the fact that God's there with this cowboy and helping him.
Yeah.
For lack of anything else to say about it right now,
that's really beautiful.
Yeah, because isn't it? Because when you think about it, we don't think about it. Really? I mean, when we're driving down the countryside and we see the cattle or we see the horses, or we even watch a movie on TV, about people riding a range and blah, 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 blah. Most of us who aren't in that world don't think about that world and what's going on. We think, but we have no problem thinking about, a guy on tour with his rock band being away from his family for months on end. We get that. But what about the guy who's in this line of work and lifestyle, and he's away from his family, or he has no family, and all he's got is the coyotes and the, whatever. That's got to be, and it is kind of funny because
we don't
so
think about it
stigmatized.
happening anymore.
No, we don't, but it does, doesn't it?
It's alive and real today. Yes.
Yeah.
There are big ranches and lots of buckaroos or vaqueros or cowboys that live in that life.
Yeah. Wow.
And see, because Marv lived that life too, or is living that life.
Right.
So I think he can communicate with him. Could you see me out there trying to do that? It would be a joke.
Well,
I'm just thinking about you and me trying to do that.
I can't saddle a horse.
Well, I may be able to saddle it, but I'd never get on it. And if I got on it, I'd never get on. I got to tell you. Let me tell you this quick little story. I hadn't been on a horse since I was a teenager. I was in my early 30s, and I decided that I was going to take the Mist Trail up to Vernal and Nevada Falls in Yosemite National Park. And they have stables and stuff, and you can, rent horses or mules. Mules? Yeah. Are they the big ones? Mm-hmm. They're really big. And they're a lot more sure-footed and so forth, but they're also really, really broad. So I get on this mule, and I'm thinking, I'm a cowboy now, right? And I'm wearing a cowboy hat that I bought at at the gift shop. Oh man, it was pathetic. So I say, they go, do you want the 1 hour trip, or do you want the 2 hour trip, or you want the 4 hour trip? And I'm like, give me the 4 hour trip. I have to tell you that my ability to walk properly for about 3 weeks was not good. I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. In fact, I was miserable after an hour going on this thing. I was not prepared. I did not know what I was doing. I thought I could tackle this thing, and I had no business doing that. And I say all that to say this. Isn't it interesting? The amount of people that actually want to sponsor somebody and have been taught in the fellowships that they can sponsor somebody, and they haven't even completed the third step. And the statement is, well, as long as you're a step ahead. Mm-hmm. What?
I've heard that.
Can you imagine? Wouldn't that be just wonderful? On that day, into an hour of that trip, I decided to deem myself as one of the trail guides. Yeah, that'd have been a mistake. And so but I had to tell that story because I've never forgotten it. In fact, I think I still hurt from it. My poor back.
When the wind blows just the right way.
Yeah. So, is alcoholism alive and well within the cowboy culture?
Oh, sure. Most definitely.
Yeah. I bet it flows like water in some circles.
Don't get me wrong now. In those circles, there is, how do I say this? A pride about their work, about their integrity. But think about this, too. There's a lot of these guys that spend a lot of hours by themselves.
Yeah.
And their release or their escape is the bottle.
Sure. Understandably so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not a put down at all.
No.
That's just, we're just recognizing that that's a fact.
So one of the things I've been thinking about lately, and I don't know if it's from the Lord, I'm still trying to figure it out, is some sort of cowboy ministry, which, by the way, is prevalent in that world. Originally, I got the idea, a friend of mine went to the Red Bluff Bull and Gelding sale, and there was a group from Colorado, or the main office is in Colorado, selling New Testaments, and it's called The Way for Cowboys. And she got me and sent me a copy of it. And in there is several testimonies by rodeo cowboys and ranchers and stuff. And one of them that caught my eye was an individual, his name is Jeff Gore, out of Texas. And that's what he does. He goes to ranches. He actually cowboys on the ranches, and he ministers. And, around the campfire, he has a guitar, he sings music and ministers. He goes to memorials and rodeos and ministers to cowboys and cowgirls. And I'm thinking about this. One of the places that I've been able to do just a little bit of this is at horse camps. These people take off for a weekend and go to these horse camps, and I'll dig out my guitar, and pretty quick there's 10, 15 people sitting around there, and they're drinking and having a good time and all that, and I'm able to maybe do a couple of songs that talks about God being the answer, and so this is what I've been.
That's great.
Kind of thinking about.
That's great stuff.
It's in the diversity that we bring to this thing that I think where the power of God is showing. I could never do this. And, a guitar is, I'd play the backside of it, with my fingers or something, Well, I know nothing. I'm tone deaf, and I can't sing. And
I didn't say I could sing.
I've heard you. I've heard you now. Let's stay with the truth.
He can sing.
But it's like God equips us and gives us these things to do. And what I do is I try to work with a few people. I do some book studies. I'm on this radio station, and I know about alcoholism, and I have a method.
Yeah.
And Marv has got his, and I really believe if you was to take a good look at it, me and Marv have this common bond. Now we have this common solution, but it's in the diversity, and I'm sure that Melissa and you both are a little different too.
You bet.
And the power of God is showing in that. It just amazes me to no end of when it says you usually wouldn't mingle.
Oh, let me ask you guys as we're wrapping this up. I want to ask you guys a question. Okay, step 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message. Like I said, the original manuscript said to others and alcoholics, and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Okay, give a brief statement of what is the message that this book is talking about. Melissa?
The message would be that there's a solution and that it is a power greater than ourselves, that we can be restored to sanity. And I think most of all that every ugly experience, every life experience that we've had, when we put it through this filter, it can be used by God to help others, and it can give our life that purpose.
Okay. Marv, what about you? What is the message this book's talking about?
Well, everything Melissa said. The biggest thing for me personally was the higher power and giving up my old ideas and stepping aside and letting God do the work. And believe me, I have a problem doing that. I'm alcoholic, and but AA has taught me so much, especially personality-wise. I was always real black and white. You're right or wrong. Or I loved you or I hated you, and they've just there's this big gray area that AA has helped me to see, and I should say God is right there in those meetings. Our second tradition talks about that. And boy, I've come to believe that. So, in a nutshell, that's, they say if you can put your philosophy in a nutshell, you probably ought to leave it there. But in a nutshell, that's probably
that's good.
That must be a cowboy saying. I never heard that saying.
Would that be in a peanut shell? I don't know why I said that. I see cowboys eating peanuts over walnuts. I don't know. Bruce, what about you?
It's everything Melissa said. and Marv. And also, I think it's about 12 steps that, when applied to our lives, exposes your need for God. And if you keep applying these principles in your life, in all your affairs, it will guide you to a reliance upon Him and not upon yourself.
Well said. And all three of you guys. I'm hearing God, God, God.
Good.
And just had an O, right? Good God. Good grief. So we can carry this message in many different ways. And what you're thinking about doing, Marv, is certainly one of them. I think God gives us giftings and experiences to be able to do that. So it is. I agree with Bruce. It's a marvelous thing, the diversity of this whole deal.
But look at it. Look right here. A mother,
yeah,
a cowboy, and a drug addict from Los Angeles.
Yeah. What in the world are you guys doing in the same room?
And we have
and a former
something
pastor and youth minister that couldn't
we
stay
have
sober.
something that binds us together like we never were before. And it's called the fellowship of the Spirit. And you don't want to miss that one.
No.
We have this. She's my sister. He's my brother.
Yeah. Amen.
And Christ is our Savior. And it's just something that you don't want to miss.
So, Marv?
Yes, sir.
Tell us a cowboy story. I know you got a million of them. Tell us a story to close out the show, or a horse story, or.
Well, I was just thinking. A matter of fact, it's not really a story, but about AA and all the things that go together with that. What I was thinking about is, without God, which the program, like Bruce said, brings us to a higher power. Without God, life is kind of like trying to saddle a dead horse. You might get the job done, but you ain't going to go anywhere.
If you're ever in a meeting with Marv and he shares, you are promised to get one of these great statements. Have you ever decided to put any of that together and publish it or anything? You got some great stuff.
Well, actually, I do write some cowboy poetry, and then I have a little book I keep by itself where I write down these sayings, and
That's great.
Do you remember the line that you said in the meeting the other day when you was talking to Sandy and us that you quoted to your song?
Oh, the verse of the song?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do.
Tell us that. I love that.
This one song that I wrote a few years ago is called "A Fool's Highway," and what it is, it's about us. And the song is a reflection of somebody. And one of the verses in it, and if you heard the whole song, it might make more sense, but it's pretty clear. What it says is, old tapes are playing. The memories are clear. Trying to let go of those things I hold dear. Silent desperation, praying for change. Can I find grace on a fool's highway?
Wow.
And
Love that.
That is packed with power.
yeah,
Wow.
not very Western, but pretty.
Yeah, but if you go in the background.
That was good.
Listen, you guys, we're out of time. Marv, we got to have you back. We got to have you back more.
Honor to be here. Thanks.
We're going to talk about that off the air. Next time you come in, I want you to bring your guitar with you and your. Do you play the harmonica?
I can play a harmonica.
Yeah.
I haven't for a long time.
But really, to be a real cowboy, don't you need to know how to play the harmonica? Come on, right? A little home on the range. See, let me stereotype.
Yeah, I thought you had to be able to yodel.
That's not a cowboy, dude.
You don't want to hear me try that.
See, that's how much I know.
That's a lonely goat herd. That's a whole nother thing. All right. Well, folks, this has been a hoot doing the personalizing the 12 steps. Next week, we're going to be talking about self-sufficiency. Aren't we, Bruce?
That's right.
Yes. The dangers, the actual fatal mistake of thinking that you can survive life with your independence.
And how it's so easy to slip back into.
Very easy. Minute to minute easy. Yeah, without even realizing it.
Without even realizing.
So we're going to be talking about that next week. So you don't want to miss that. We've got great shows coming ahead for you in the following weeks. We've got some great interviews with some authors, some celebrities, clinicians, and just a good old 12-stepper out there experiencing this thing that we call the state of recovered. Thousands of people have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. You can too. Please email us here at take12radio@comcast.net. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Monty Meyer. You can follow the link right here. And we're on all sorts of social networking sites. We are in the process right now of putting together a brand new board of directors.
Yeah, and the Winchester won the West.
And then Bruce. We had an advisory board at one time for quite a while, and there is a difference. and at some point I'll explain that to you. But we are developing an actual board of directors, and if you are interested in that, if you think you would like to become a part of the Take 12 Radio Board of Directors, there's qualifications for that, and you can find that at take12radio.com/join the team.html. We'll have the link up on the website. We are pretty selective and pretty picky because this is frontline stuff, and we're all about breaking stigma of addiction and saving people's lives. So the qualifications on that page, we're not going to be flexible with those. Those are absolutely written in stone. But if you're interested and you want to check that out, please do that. All right. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Monty.
Thanks, Monty.
Good night, Cecil.
Good night, Cecil. Giddy up with your old bad self. All right, everyone. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty'man, along with Melissa, along with Bruce, and along with Mr. R, Marv R, our special guest this week. We are all wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.